Well, I'll take it personally here. Like choosing what to flip right now is like the most ridiculous mind guess. Just I change my answer every day. I feel right, like because we want to make money, we see opportunity, but it's like, are you walking into a trap? Are you passing up opportunity? Like you can perform these things so many different ways, and it's very challenging. I don't think it's a time to get greedy, but it's also not a time to sit on the sidelines. Is my own 2 cents here. Um, but going back to the question, you know, let's talk about today, right? Where rates are at. Where do you foresee them going and call it the next 90 days, the next year? And what advice would you give to someone who's asking you those same generic questions like, hey, should I hold off right now?
Okay. I mean, I'll start with, I'll work my way backwards. Because I get that a lot. Should I hold off right now? I'm going to wait and watch. And keep in mind, a lot of this is working more towards people who are looking at their primary residence, not as much investors, right? Both. I hear it from both, but investors usually, my clients who are investors usually approach me with the answers instead of the questions, unfortunately. And that's okay, because I listen. I listen to what they say. But when someone asks me about the market and should I hold off, you can't time the market. That's impossible. And the reality is that you have to be able to answer yes to two very important questions. And I think one of those is, can you afford it, right? Can you afford what the cost is? Now, regardless of where interest rates are at, 3% or right now, I mean, going into the end of October, where we're at right now, we are now at a position where interest rates are at the highest level that they've been in over 20 years. They've now gotten to where they were basically when I got in the industry, almost there. And going through and looking at that, you have to think from an affordability factor. How much is X going to cost you? What does that monthly payment look like? And are you comfortable with that? And for an investor, that means, is your return on your investment there, your future return? What does that look like on where rents are at? And of course, as rates go up and things are more expensive, rent rises as well. So if you're factoring that into your balance sheet, you got to figure it out. So first and foremost, can you afford it? Does it make sense? And the second, I mean, especially this is mainly true if it's your primary residence. Do you want to live there? Do you love that home? Is that, are you, because that's what people are buying their home for, right? They're buying a place to live. And it becomes this financial focus so many times, which is not the best way to think about it. I tell a stupid joke, but I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, is the new car smell of owning a home wears off very quickly. And you need to love where you live. You need to be comfortable with that. Now, from an investor standpoint, if you're buying that property, I think right now it's probably more important to underwrite your deals properly and understand what your costs are, your future costs in the current environment. What's your margin for building in if those are going to go up and if things become more expensive, and making sure that it still makes sense for you on the balance sheet. So when people ask me if it's a good time or not, I think if you can find the right investment, yeah, it's an amazing time. And I think if you can find it's your home and you can find a place you want to live, then yeah, it's as good of a time as any, because you don't know what's going to happen with home values. You don't know what's going to happen with interest rates and the cost of money. We could look back on this 5 years from now and say, wow, remember when rates were that low? Like, you don't know. In other cultures, in China and other areas, people use 100-year mortgages. You don't buy a home like here. We buy condos like they're Toyota Camrys, right? Like they're cars. It's a luxury that we've experienced. And in other countries, there's places where individuals don't buy homes, families and generations buy homes. And with depending on the economic path and what happens, that could very well be a position someday we find ourselves in. Now, that's completely hypothetical. Do I think that's where we're going? Not necessarily. But factor that in when you're saying timing the market. You don't know what's happening. Now, in the current environment and where do we think things are going, I do a lot of social media and videos, so you can fact check me on this, and you'll find out. And I've been saying all year that I would not be surprised to see rates in the 7s, which is where we're at, and I would also not be surprised to see an 8. I do think that we're going to get up into the 8% range. I've seen it before in my life, so I don't see why I wouldn't see it again. We're in a position right now where there's a train rolling forward very heavily, and they're relying on the increase in interest rates to try and stop things. And the reality is that is a necessity as well. Home affordability is at its worst level that we've ever seen in my lifetime. I've never experienced anything like this. And what that means is that people who want to buy a home can't afford to buy a home, right? That's what we're looking at, because interest rates continue to rise, which makes it more expensive. And at the same time, property values continue to go up because the demand is still there. And that balance is so out of whack right now, and something has to change, or else we would be in a position where generations have to buy homes, right? Prices just keep going up and money just keeps getting more expensive, and it's out of whack with the wages and what people are earning, then that's not going to make sense. So in a way, for me, I look at it as if the financial powers are pumping the brakes and saying, we're just going to make this so expensive that you don't buy a home until we can correct it and try to see something there. Now, that may not happen. We may not see that. We do have other economic factors at play, as we're already starting to see some of those telltale signs of the four-letter word of recession and what people want to call it, and what that means and how we see it and how you identify with it, whether or not you see it that way or not. We're seeing those pressures at the pump, at the grocery store, and at the cost of living. So with that being said, I think that we'll see interest rates continue to rise. I think that they'll probably not rise as drastically, right? If they did, just imagine if they did, for example, we are literally about 3 times where we were in January, right? I was signing applications for owner occupied homes, and there was a 2 in front of it, 275, right? And now I have those same people who might be signing 3 times higher at the interest rate. So I really don't think that in 2023, we're going to see interest rates 3 times what they are going into it. That would be scary, right? 24%. At least we'd have a story. We'd have to stop listening to people say, hey, my parents, they bought a home at 18%. Instead, we'd be like, oh, well, I bought a home at 24% if that happened. But I don't see that happening. But I do think that it's very realistic that we'll be seeing the 7s and the 8s, and that'll become the new norm. Now, to give you a little bit of like a bow on it, if you will, to go back, I mentioned when I got in the industry, I did it for a week and I quit, right? I quit because my mentality was different. I was used to being catered to, and all of a sudden I had to shift my mentality, and that didn't sit well with me then, right? A month later, that was different. I was humbled. I was in a different mentality. Well, I think that coming up after the new year and going into 2023, people are going to be more comfortable with the fact that interest rates are higher. It's just what it costs. This is what it is. And that's going to help a shift in our market and continue things moving forward, because people will say, hey, I'm no longer looking at yesterday's money. I'm looking at today's money, and I still need a new home, or this investment may make sense now. This is what I'm looking at. So I think that we'll see interest rates higher, but we will still see positive movement and growth in the housing. So that was a really long-winded answer. I'm sorry for that.